Yo, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be starting a new kind of video series. It might turn into a series, we'll see. This video series is going to be called Gen Z Nostalgia. It's going to be kind of a review, sort of maybe kind of podcast situation. It's obviously not a podcast, this is just me. But we're going to be talking about games that I have a lot of nostalgia for or just good memories. And we're going to be talking about almost like in a review format of what I think about these games, and more so talking about the fun factor. You know, a lot of reviews get into the critiques and very critical about games, but personally, I don't like when I look at a review, like some people are reviewing Sonic Frontiers, although it's not a nostalgia game, right? It's just brand new, but some people will rate Sonic Frontiers like 7 out of 10, and personally, I think it's like an 8.5 out of 10 for me because of the fun factor. The game's fun, right? So I wanted to get into games that are nostalgic for me specifically, and how that nostalgia actually plays into sort of how you remember the game, if it's as fun as it used to be, and mostly talking about the fun factor when talking about these games, right? So the first thing I actually wanted to start with is actually the definition of nostalgia. So here on Google, I'm looking at it right now. Nostalgia: a sentimental longing or wishful affection for the past, typically for a period or place with happy personal associations. So pretty simple there, right? We're looking at games that it's not wishful, it's wistful, whatever that word means, I don't know. But we're going to be getting into games that are from a period of time where, you know, it was good, you know, good times, good games, and we're going to be talking about stuff like that. Now, with today, we're going to be starting with a game called Sonic Colors. So, I kind of want to get into the history on how I got into this game, and my memories with it. So, first things first, I kind of want to get before Sonic Colors actually came out. So, it was actually 2008, and personally, at the time, I got one of the greatest games of all time. And that was Sonic Unleashed for the PS2. Sonic Unleashed for the PS2 was like amazing. Now I know for like modern times that, you know, especially the PS2 is like one of the worst versions of that game. But as a crazed 9-year-old Sonic fan, it didn't get any better than that. That was like the greatest gift I could have ever received. And I played the ever-living crap out of that game. And while I was enjoying the game, a lot of people didn't really like Sonic Unleashed. It was kind of poorly received, or at least it was polarizing, to say the least. A lot of people didn't like the Werehog because it put a lot of damper on the amazing daytime stages that came with it. You know, they had the boost formula transferred over to 3D. It was super exhilarating, and to this day, a lot of people still say it's the best. Like Sonic, like modern Sonic game is just the daytime stages from Sonic Unleashed. So the thing is you would hear fans say that they want the next Sonic game to be Sonic Colors, and even for myself, I remember telling myself like if they could just make a Sonic game of just boost games, like it'd be the best Sonic game ever. And I actually remember finding out that Sonic Colors got announced, and I remember seeing this game, and my like 11-year-old mind could not contain the hype that this game was like a boost only Sonic game. Like, it doesn't get any better than this. This is going to be the greatest video game of all time, right? So obviously the hype was super high for me. You know, 11-year-old Sonic fan, loved Sonic Unleashed. Wow, Sonic game with boost only gameplay doesn't get any better, right? So then fast forward to Christmas that year, and 2010, my sister and we opened up the absolute powerhouse of the 7th generation consoles, the Wii. We were mind blown. This, you know, of course we're like kids, and we got this Wii. We could play Wii Sports on it. I think we had Wii Sports Resort. Like, we had it all, right? So we were super, super excited. And then I opened up my next gift that was the shape of a game, and lo and behold, it's freaking Sonic Colors. And for me, getting like a new game like relatively close to release was like unheard of, right? We weren't really like that back then. So getting a not only a Wii, but then Sonic Colors right after that, mind blown. Like I literally could not contain the hype, and that's all I did. I played the crap out of Sonic Colors, and I loved every second of it. I loved the new voice actors. I loved the gameplay. I loved all the jokes. The jokes absolutely cracked me up at the time, and it was amazing. It was literally a sense. It was a place with happy personal associations per the definition, right? So now moving into kind of the review section, so we kind of got a little bit of background of my history with Sonic Colors. Today we're actually going to be playing the Epic Games version of Sonic Colors Ultimate, which is actually the re-release on PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, Series S, 3, Xbox One, and PS4, and Switch. And they just recently released it on the Steam client like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So you could pretty much, Sonic Colors is even more accessible now than it was, because before it was just on the Wii, and then there was a DS version. We won't really be talking about that one, although I do have really good memories with that one. But we're just going to be talking about Sonic Colors as a whole with gameplay from Sonic Colors Ultimate. So first things first, I want to get out with some of the differences between the original and Sonic Colors Ultimate. Mainly is graphics. They bumped the graphics up to, I believe, 4K. What you'll be seeing is 1080p, because that's what I ran it on, was 1080p, 60 FPS. So now we have 4K, 60 FPS. They updated some of the lighting and maybe some of the textures, but nothing too crazy. And I think they added the Rival Rush mode, which is where you race against Metal Sonic. They added a few little things here and there. But for the most part, it's pretty faithful. When the game first came out, the re-release, it had a lot of bugs. It was very buggy. I think it was ported by Blind Squirrel Games, if I'm correct. I don't really know a lot about what these guys have done in the past. But the game did come out pretty buggy, especially on, I believe, Switch. It was like almost unplayable on Switch. So take that into consideration. But it's pretty much been patched on all consoles. I think the Switch still runs a little rough, but that's just because it's like, 7th generation hardware on, competing against 9th generation consoles now. So, personally, I played it with a 2070 Ti. So it ran really well at max settings. So no issues for the PC version on Epic Games. The Epic Games client is not really my favorite. I use it for a few games, but for the most part, I only have it on here because this was the only place you can get it at launch. So I kind of want to talk about the beginning of the game, right? So for one, I played on Epic Games with PS5 controller. You'll see Xbox stuff because Epic Games doesn't read PS5 controllers, I don't think. I haven't had a game where it works. So I had to use like DS4 Windows or something. Great software. It is amazing with using PS5 and PS4 controllers on PC for a lot of systems that don't read it and they just read 360 and like Xbone controllers. So you turn on the game, you start a new save file, and it literally throws you right. It just throws you straight into the game. Act 1, Tropical Resort, no story, no nothing. You're playing the game, which we haven't had in a Sonic game in like years, since probably Sonic 2, honestly, because even Sonic 1 had Sonic 3 had a short little cutscene right before the game actually started. So it's been a long time, and they just throw you straight into the game. So you play the first 2 acts, and then you get your first cutscene. Your first cutscene just kind of lays down the ground rules with Sonic and Tails essentially explaining why they're there at Eggman's Interstellar Amusement Park. And they quickly learn that these little aliens that Orbot and Cubot are trying to capture, which Orbot and Cubot are Eggman's new little goons, if you may, his little lackeys, which Orbot is actually a carryover from Sonic Unleashed from, what was he called? He had a different like name or something, or a fan name, but Orbot is now this character and Cubot is a new one. So they're his new lackeys. They're chasing down these little aliens, and Sonic actually saves this alien, and they do like a high five, I think. Or maybe they don't do a high five. I don't remember. But Sonic absorbs the alien and utilizes what's called the Hyper Go-On powers that these aliens have. We're going to reveal their name here in a little bit. And to use special abilities, so it actually ends up using laser as first, and you just like zoom all around. You go in a straight line, you bounce off walls and stuff. It's a pretty cool ability, right? So we later learn that these aliens are actually called wisps, and they actually do like some like kind of joke about lisps, and Sonic can't pronounce wisps, so he just calls them aliens, and he does like a little breaks the fourth wall. He's like, I'm just gonna call them aliens if that's cool with everybody. It's kind of a funny joke. I like was rolling over the floor as a kid. Nowadays it's kind of whatever, but it is funny. So there's more than just a laser. There's like drill, which lets you go underground. There's cube, which you turn these blue rings into these cubes, and vice versa once you activate it. And then also is almost like a screen wipe. It's one of the cooler ones. Let's see, there's I'm trying to like kind of go in order. There's like hover, which is like you kind of, well, you hover and you have the light speed dash. There's rocket, which you just shoot up straight in a straight line. It's only in 2D. You shoot up in a straight line and then you get to like free fall down. And then there's also there's spike, which turns you into a spin dash ball, so you can actually utilize spin dash, and you kind of turns like the spider ball from like Super Metroid, if you may. Let's see what else there is. What is that one called? The frenzy, which turns you into like this weird monster mouth thing, and you just eat the crap out of everything. It's one of my favorite ones, and it's like when you're speedrunning the game, it's like the one you avoid, but like I love it because you just get to destroy everything in your path. So the wisps are really fun, and they are pretty well implemented into Sonic Colors. So I really, really enjoy that about the wisps. However, they do kind of lock your S ranks behind the wisps, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit more. I want to kind of continue back on the story. So once Sonic finds out that Eggman's up to no good, it becomes a fairly simple Sonic versus Eggman story. There's nothing too crazy behind it. It's pretty simple. There are neat little moments where like Eggman takes control over Tails, and you think we're gonna get like a Tails versus Sonic boss fight, but it never happens. So there's neat little moments. There's a lot of comedy in this game, and as a kid, as an 11-year-old kid, it was the funniest stuff I've ever heard in my life. As a adult whose humor has obviously changed over the years, I still think a lot of this stuff is funny, and I found myself cracking up quite a bit playing this game again and actually watching the cutscenes. And what I will say is, one, I am a grown adult who has the mind of a child, so obviously these things are still going to be kind of funny to me. But even with that, that's kind of what I was talking about these reviews, is they are fun factor based, and I enjoyed these jokes. I think that they were funny. They lighten the story up. Sometimes they drag on a little bit too long, I will say that, but I think they were funny. I think I don't think they did crack me up quite a bit. And I think they added to what was supposed to be kind of like this comeback for Sonic. They did a really simple story. They did almost exactly with what the fans wanted, with a slight twist with the wisps. And I think the jokes just kind of were put in there to add a little bit of sauce to overall kind of bland story, right? So kind of fast forward, you go through all the different worlds. You have Tropical Resort, Sweet Mountain, Starlight Carnival, Planet Wisp, Aquarium Park, and Asteroid Coaster, and then you get into Terminal Velocity, I think is what it's called, and you're fighting different bosses throughout the time. The bosses are a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun once you actually use the wisp to like do double damage or whatever, and you knock them out in 2 hits instead of 3 or 4 or 5. So that's always rewarding, is being able to get to use the wisp, knock out the boss. You get to the final zone, and the final zone, you play that. It's pretty much an on-rails quick step zone, and then you're at the final boss. The final boss is actually, let's see, it's called the Nego Wisp Armor. It's kind of a dope name. It's kind of a dope boss fight, and Eggman claims that it's invincible. Of course, Eggman's just capping, right? So Sonic quickly pushes Tails into what I like to call the Snellevator, because it's like the elevator to get to the park, but it kind of looks like a snail, to get Tails to safety. Now start Sonic Colors' final boss, which is actually, like I said earlier, a very, very good boss fight. One of the best in the series. The problem is, and this isn't Sonic Colors' problem, this is the series' problem, is actually reused this boss 2 other times. One in Sonic Lost World with whatever the boss was called in that one. I haven't actually played Lost World that much. And then also in Sonic Forces. And in Sonic Forces, it's almost verbatim the same boss. Just add Classic Sonic and add Avatar, and it's the same boss. It's actually super unfortunate. But the boss is great in this game. It's a lot of fun. Eggman actually fuses Frenzy with the other Wisps and utilizes them as attacks. It's really creative, really cool. And he actually does like cube and laser at the same time. And you have to kind of like finagle your way in the right spot so you don't get hit by the laser, because the laser is going to bounce off of the blocks. So super fun boss fight. Beat the boss fight, and Sonic actually gets caught in an explosion that actually gets foreshadowed in the first zone, Tropical Resort, and the Wisps actually have to save Sonic in order to bring him back to Sonic's world, right, or Earth, or Mobius. We're just gonna call it his world. And that's pretty much it about Sonic Colors. This very simple story. We kind of broke down a few things there, but I didn't see anything wrong with it playing safe. You have to think that this game is coming off the heels of Shadow the Hedgehog, 06, Sonic Unleashed. Like, Sega's just been getting railed left and right with these mediocre to borderline worst video game of all time, situations. So they had to kind of dial it back, go back to very, very basics of Sonic the Hedgehog with a little bit of a spin to it, and just play it really, really safe. The comedy is entertaining for me. I thought it was funny. Some jokes do drag on a little bit too long, but for me, I can enjoy a really simple Sonic story with a little bit of sauce to it. That's pretty much it for the story. Now we're going to kind of go into the gameplay here. So, Sonic Colors gameplay. I kind of wanted to go over the Wii version and Colors Ultimate at the same time. There's not a lot of difference. But in the Wii version, there is a plethora of controller options. So one, you can play with the Wii Remote by itself sideways. Terrible, absolute trash. You can play Wii Remote Nunchuck. Not a bad way to play. The only thing that the Nunchuck really does, the Wii Remote, is you shake it, I think, to activate the Wisp. Super simple. Not a bad way to play the game. And then you have your Classic Controller, or Classic Controller Pro, which is a good way to play. It's probably my preferred way to play on the Wii. And then you have GameCube Controller, which I know a lot of people like to play with that as well. So a lot of different options to play Sonic Colors on the Wii. Obviously, you're probably going to play with either Classic Controller or the GameCube Controller. On PC, obviously, you have the entirety of PC controls. You can play with PS5, Xbone, whatever, right? Even keyboard and mouse, not recommended, obviously. But the fact that they made the game so accessible to the Wii with, 3 really good controller options with, Wii Remote Nunchuck, Classic Controller, and GameCube Controller, it kind of lets you kind of play around with which ones you like the most. So that aspect, which I know that's pretty common for a lot of Wii games, but I can appreciate that about the Wii version. They gave you options. Graphically, the Wii version still looks great to this day. Like, honestly, the Wii version, you put that sucker on a Dolphin, you put it on, even on the Wii, put it on HDTV, whatever, it's going to look good. Sonic Colors to this day is a great looking game, great graphics, especially for the Wii. What they were able to pull off with Wii hardware is pretty astonishing, and I can really appreciate that. Colors Ultimate while I do appreciate getting 4K and 60 FPS and all this other great stuff, I don't think they should have tweaked the lighting as much as they did. Way too much bloom, way too much like saturation almost, I think. I do appreciate the updated like textures and, you know, kind of high resing the models and stuff, but ultimately they kind of dropped the ball on the lighting. It definitely makes the game look different. It makes it look a lot more, I would say, almost washed out, especially when you look at places like Planet Wisp, which one of the best parts about Planet Wisp was that it was colorful in the Wii version, but it's still like the shadows were still dark, and it had like this nice like the red bits of Planet Wisp were like kind of a darker red, and but the whole world was super bright. So you got this vibe of like this planet is super bright, but Eggman's contraptions here are darkening some of it, you know. It was a great contrast in this world, and Colors Ultimate just kind of washes stuff out like that. And another thing is the soundtrack. Absolute bangers on the Wii version. Cannot deny this is one of the better Sonic soundtracks. What do you expect? Colors Ultimate kind of ruined it with the Ultimate soundtrack. They did a little bit more techno side of things. I think they maybe were trying to modernize it, I think. Most of it is okay, but they ruined some of the bangers like Planet Wisp and Aquarium Park. They just those sounds didn't need to be technical, right? They didn't need to be techno. They needed to stay as this kind of orchestral situation that they had going on. The main theme, Reach for the Stars, is pretty good. It's performed by Cash Cash. The updated one is fine. It's pretty much the same song. What is that one song? The credits theme. I can't remember exactly what it's called. Speak from Your Heart or something. Banger, absolute banger in the Wii version. The remix version is okay in Colors Ultimate. So the kind of the running theme for like Colors Ultimate is they changed the graphics and the music, and while I appreciate it, right, realistically they could have just rezzed up the current graphics and not touched the lighting, and the game would have looked amazing, you know. And same thing for the music, you know. Prime example, boom, Metroid Prime Remastered. With the music, they didn't even change the music because you don't have to, because Metroid Prime's music is full of bangers. The whole soundtrack is phenomenal, and Sonic Colors is the exact same situation. It's the same thing with Metroid Prime, right? Sonic Colors has an absolute banger of a soundtrack, and they did not have to go and change anything. In terms of Sonic Colors' kind of gameplay, it's your typical stage clear game. You start from the beginning and you complete the stage. Each zone, if you may, each park has 7 acts. 6 of them are levels, and the 7th one is a boss. And the way how it's kind of structured is there's like 3 main acts, and then everything else, the other 3 are like mini zones. They're like 40 seconds, a minute long, and it's almost like a challenge. Like it's usually like some kind of platform challenge or some kind of gimmick, and that's pretty much how every zone is structured. The main zones of each stage are absolutely awesome. They're all structured really well. A pretty good balance of 2D and 3D between these main acts that you get. The problem that people have with this game is the other 3 acts are all 2D, pretty much. Some 3D here and there, but like 90% of those little extra acts that you have to play are like 2D. And so what you end up running into is the game is like 70, 85% 2D, and then there's the 3D, right? And first of all, I think you can have a good Sonic game without it being fully 3D. I think that there's this stigma that they want a fully 3D boost Sonic game, and personally, that's what I thought growing up. And as I've gotten older and I've kind of understand game design and how to entice the player and how to have good level design, having a fully 3D boost Sonic game is, while it will probably be fun the first time, it's not going to be fun every time, because it's going to be mostly hallways. You're going to have like Generations has really good 3D sections, but at some point you're going to hit a limit and you're going to be getting mostly hallways, right? You can't, I feel like for Boost 3D Sonic, I feel like they have to generate way too much of a level, and have way too many variables to make every level feel a little different. Maybe that's just me. Maybe some people, can do it. There's a lot of like mods that come out for like generations and forces and stuff where they, all these levels are pretty unique. But I think at the time, especially, I don't think Sonic Team really had the I don't want to say skill, because they're obviously highly skilled game developers, but I don't think they were ready for that, right? So that's one of the bigger complaints. Personally, it doesn't bother me too much. I kind of like having these, they feel like missions. I kind of like having these little missions peppered throughout the game. I think it kind of lets you break away from a main stage and do something a little bit different. Like, I know a lot of people don't like the auto-scrolling mission where you bounce constantly on this little spring and it's like an auto-scroller, but I kind of like it. I like trying to speed up the process. Like if you touch the ground, if you touch like a platform, the spring will follow you like on the dot, unless you're going super fast, right? But it'll follow you on the dot, so you could almost skip a lot of the level if you just stay off the spring as much as you can and just like jump dash as far as you can. And I kind of like the challenge. I like to see how fast I can get through these auto scrollers. So I will say that, me personally, I really do enjoy like these little mini stages. So, but that's kind of how the stages are structured. I kind of touched on the bosses earlier. The bosses aren't really anything to write home about. They're designed really well, but they're also really, really easy. There's nothing really challenging about any of the bosses in this game, and that's kind of the point. Sega was kind of in like this, their main demographic were, children, right? It's a children's game. So their main demographics were children, so of course the game's going to be a little easy. But one of my favorite ways on how they kind of increase the difficulty is they did it like Mario did. So in like, let's say Super Mario 3D World, pretty easy game, kind of, cakewalk. It gets a little challenging at the end, but nothing crazy, right? Where the challenge is in that game is the green stars, right? The challenge in that game, and like Yoshi, Kirby, especially Kirby games, the challenge is in these collectibles. And Sonic Colors kind of goes with that same route with the red star rings. So there's 5 red star rings in every single level. And typically you need wisps in order to get them, so a lot of them are locked until you get all the wisps. And what happens is you kind of have to find where these red star rings, right? It's kind of like a little egg hunt. So it's fun to go back and try to find these red star rings, and there's usually like a little challenge attached to it, right? And that's where a lot of the fun comes with replaying a lot of these stages. So the way what the red stars get you is they unlock more stages in the multiplayer. I didn't record any multiplayer stuff, but essentially the multiplayer has 3 acts per each zone. In the 3rd act, which you completed, you unlock a Chaos Emerald. Once you complete all 7 zones, you get all 7 Chaos Emeralds, and then you can play as Supersonic. And the way how Supersonic works in this game is you have to give up all of your wisps. So you select it in the settings, and now you can no longer collect wisp capsules. But as soon as you get 50 rings, you press the wisp button, which for me was R1, and you turn Supersonic. And pretty much Supersonic rules apply, right? I don't think you necessarily go faster, but you have infinite boost, and your double jump turns into a single jump that is as high as the double jump. So now, instead of, you jump and then you jump again, now you're just doing one big jump. So you save a little bit of time there as well. Of course, having unlimited boost is always amazing, because boost can get a little scarce in some of these levels. So having unlimited boost is pretty nice, but you kind of lock yourself out of getting S ranks because you can't use the wisps. And now I'm going to talk about S ranking these levels. So if you just play the level like normal, occasional wisp use to get through the level, you're probably going to get an A, you might get an S, occasionally a B. You're usually going to float around the A rank, typically if you don't die and you play pretty okay. A lot of the stages are going to be locked from S ranks because you have to use, especially the shorter ones, right? Because you're going to be locked from using wisps because you won't have them. The key to getting S ranks is getting that color bonus that you get for using wisps, like drill. The main thing is just staying as drill as long as you can to get that bonus up, and collecting rings while you're doing it, right? So that's how you get S ranks in those specific stages where like maybe drills like the challenge or something, and collecting red rings as well, because I think red rings are like 35,000 points or 3,500 points. I'm not entirely sure, but the key to getting S ranks is completing the stage in a reasonable time. It's not asking you to go fast, it's just reasonable time, utilizing wisps as much as you can, and collecting a few red star rings on the way. You do that, you get an S rank. Anything short of that, you're probably not going to get S rank. You're probably just going to get an A, and you're going to be like, well, what the hell? Like, I literally killed it the whole level. I did it super fast, but I got like a D rank. Like, I know one of the first levels in the game, like Act 6 of Tropical Resort, it's literally like 40 seconds long. And if you complete it in 40 seconds, you're getting a D rank. So, ranking system is it's not hard to get the S rank. You just have to have the wisps, and you have to be able to kind of stick around for a little bit and get those points. So I think that's all I can think about for the gameplay of Sonic Colors. I can't really think of anything else. If you're playing a Super Sonic, you're not gonna get an S rank on any of the levels. It's literally impossible. It's probably not impossible, but it's gonna be hard. But I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, you have stuff like drifting, which kind of is locked to specific sections, and the quick stepping is locked to specific sections. This is because of the controller schemes on the Wii. There's not enough buttons on the singular Wii remote to be able to use all these things like how you could in Unleashed, which you could quick step and drift at any point you wanted to. But in Colors, that's not the case. They wanted to be able to use all of the different accessories for the Wii as well as just the Wii remote. So they kind of sacrificed some of the buttons, right? Which I'm pretty sure Sonic Team didn't care, because they don't like using the buttons anyways. If they can map everything to the same button, they would. So that's kind of like the drawback from the Wii, was they had to accommodate the Wii remote by itself. So they locked drifting and quick stepping to specific sections in the game. It's not the end of the world, but it does kind of suck, I'm not gonna lie. But I would say overall, like, the experience of getting to play boost only Sonic is always a great experience, and I always love playing Sonic Colors. Sonic Colors for the longest time was like my #1 favorite Sonic game, until I kind of got back into Adventures again. But for the longest time, this was like the greatest Sonic game ever to me, and I really thought that they struck gold with this. And they followed up with Generations. You're like, yo, Sonic is back. And then, of course, you get like games like Lost World and Forces and whatever, boom. We'll talk about those games another day. Those will definitely be in another Gen Z nostalgia video. But I guess some final thoughts, kind of getting into the nostalgia aspect. Playing this game for me was amazing because it was something that was really fun. It's something that Sonic really needed at the time. My 11-year-old self didn't know that Sonic needed this game, but it got it. And I think when I look back at how the community was looking at this game back in the day, this game was revered. It was, I don't know if that's the correct word. This game was loved by the community, and to this day is still loved. I think it kind of got some negative stuff going on recently just because of Colors Ultimate. It wasn't a very good port, but I think Sonic Colors by itself is an absolute phenomenal game. I think it's structured really well. Some people don't like the little mini stages. Me personally, it doesn't bother me at all. If anything, I actually kind of like them. And also, I want to say this. I kind of am like a self-aware coper for Sonic. Some games I'm just like I don't want to say like I'm white knighting Colors or Colors Ultimate or whatever terrible game there is, but I am kind of like a coper. Like I'm a self-proclaimed Frontiers coper. I'll admit that. But I think for Colors, I think that the memories that I have with this game definitely are locked into my opinion to the game. I think it is a little difficult for me to kind of think critically about this game because I grew up with this game. I was 11 years old and I'm playing a brand new Sonic game for the first time, like fresh off the shelf on my brand new Wii. Like, how could I not love this game? And to this day, those memories stick with me. I think about sitting in my living room overnight with the Wii, playing Sonic Colors, and just absolutely loving it, replaying it over and over and over. I made a Let's Play on it years ago with with one of my good friends. I even made a video on how to speedrun the first level before like speedruns got insane with this game. So like I have a lot of good memories with this game, from everything from just playing the game, making content on the game, and now, you know, I've got this video to look back on. And I think this was like one of the best games I could have picked to be my first game to kind of review in a nostalgic sense. The story is, you know, pretty simple but pretty entertaining to me. And yeah, if I had to rate Sonic Colors today, I would definitely give it a 9 out of 10. And like the Colors Ultimate version, they've patched it up enough. You can use the original soundtrack now. It's definitely gotten a lot better. So even today, I would say that Colors Ultimate is probably a 9 out of 10 for me, especially now that it's on Steam. Obviously, I'm not going to go buy another version of the game on Steam, but the Steam version for me would definitely be a 9 out of 10, seeing how it probably has native PS5 controller support and everything. So yeah, with all that, I would probably say 9 out of 10. Even to this day, even with nostalgia factor and no nostalgia factor, definitely 9 out of 10. So with all that being said, guys, let me know what you think about this kind of format of looking back at a game. It's almost like a retrospective, right? But maybe not so deep. And it's more about talking about fun factor of games. You know what? That's what we'll do. We're not going to give it a rating. We're going to give it a fun factor rating. It's a little different. For me, fun factor of Sonic Colors, 10 out of 10. This is one of the most fun games I own. One of the most fun games I've been playing for over 10 years now. Ugh, what, 13 years? It'll be 13 years this, November? So, been playing this game for 12 years. Fun factor has always been 10 out of 10, and to this day is still 10 out of 10. So, let me know what you guys think about this kind of format of video. If you guys want to see more, I kind of like flirting with the fact that, you know, I'm an early Gen Zer. I'm an early Zoomer, and, you know, I like looking back at some of the things that I grew up with. So with all that being said, guys, if you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like. Today's video is sponsored by the like button and by the subscribe button that YouTube provides for everybody on this platform. So please hit the subscribe button if you enjoy this content for the next video. Hit the like button. Hit the dislike button if you didn't like it. I mean, I don't know. But make sure you hit the like button for sure if you enjoyed it. Drop a comment on what game you want to see me do next to kind of give you an idea of games that I'd be prepared to get out there right now. Would be any kind of Sonic game that's not recent. Metroid games, Mario games, Zelda games, Mario, Luigi games, whatever. Let me know. I'm willing to play it all. Call of Duty, whatever. I play it all. I literally play it all. Except for I don't play like League. I don't play like Soulborn games, you know, because I suck. With all that being said, guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys in the next video. Later.